What's up? Welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of the Book of Clarence, the new biblical comedy drama satire film from Jeymes Samuel, starring LaKeith Stanfield, featuring an ensemble cast. This is a movie I was definitely anticipating, and a movie that I liked overall. Very interesting movie to think about in terms of the end result here. I of course, was very happy to learn about this movie because Jeymes Samuel, music video director, his debut feature film, The Harder They Fall, which was the Netflix Western film from about 2 years ago, I liked that one quite a bit. LaKeith Stanfield, one of the stars of that movie. Samuel and Stanfield reuniting. Sounds great. Also, LaKeith Stanfield, one of the great American actors we have right now. He is an awesome guy. I love him in just about everything. I think he's constantly crushing it. And this is a really ambitious swing for sure to do a biblical film period, a biblical film with a lot of satirical elements, especially in the beginning. I mean, this is I think, steep or a deep space. There's a lot of biblical films, some of the greatest films of all time, like the Ten Commandments, even doing a satirical spin off the time of Jesus, with a different character, in this case, Clarence, reminiscent of something such as Monty Python's The Life of Brian. That has also been done. So when you get something like this, I think you definitely want it to feel fresh, feel different, feel unique, and I think it does. There's a ton of I think flair to this movie, especially in the first half, especially in the first act, and I think it's at its best in the beginning when it's like that. The movie eventually transitions to, I think, a more conventional, more familiar endpoint and familiar storytelling beats. But in the beginning, I think really stands out. Also, like the production, I thought was pretty outstanding. Honestly, this was filmed in and around Matera, Italy, which is a famous, decades-long used location for filming, biblical Jerusalem and whatnot. So you definitely recognize the setting, but it looks great. And yeah, I think just the central premise of you have this guy Clarence, who is basically like a low rent, like petty criminal, who's a non-believer. He doesn't believe in Jesus. He doesn't have the faith. He doesn't believe that anything people say Jesus does is real. But he's also kind of down on his luck, and he's got to, you know, pay off the local gangster so he doesn't get killed himself. And he has some various schemes and ideas, and eventually he decides that he's going to decide, no, he's a messiah, and he'll just kind of grift the locals and get paid as a result to save himself. And I think the whole build up to that point is where the movie's at its best, just because, again, you have this flair. Like, I think there's some really funny touches, like when Clarence and his BFF Elijah, played by RJ Seiler, when they go to like smoke at like a hookah den, basically, the people, once they smoke, when they're high, they're literally levitating. When Clarence has like a great idea, you literally see a light bulb over his head, and he like grabs the light bulb, and then he realizes he determined a new plan. Like, there's like kind of fun stuff going on like that. In general, I think, again, I quite enjoy the humor. You have LaKeith also playing Clarence's twin brother Thomas. Of course, this is Thomas the Apostle, one of the apostles of Jesus, and that's kind of a fun dual performance, right? And yeah, like I think like all of that's like going really well. It's quite fun. You have quite the ensemble cast at this point already. Right off the bat, you get introduced to Mary Magdalene, played by Tiana Taylor. We have one kind of brief scene with David Oyelowo as John the Baptist. You have Caleb McLaughlin as this like cab driver guy, basically. You have Anna Diop as Clarence's love interest, who is the sister of Jedediah, the local gangster. You have Michael Ward as Judas Iscariot. You have, later on, you get introduced to a few of the white characters. You have Benedict Cumberbatch, and I'll get back to him. James McAvoy plays Pontius Pilate. You have Tom Glynn Carney, who is from House of the Dragon, as one of the Romans, kind of ruling over Jerusalem, as it were. Yeah, it's kind of the best of it, except for one other guy, Omar Sy, as Barabbas. Really fun flip to make Barabbas a good guy in terms of what we associate with Barabbas in the traditional biblical story. And I think where the movie starts to like kind of lose its confidence and kind of lose its message, because up to the point where Clarence decides he's going to become a messiah himself. I think the movie is really kind of humming. Honestly, I was like really, really digging it. And meanwhile, like the presence of Jesus Christ, or Jesus of Nazareth at this time, of course, Jesus, he's like kind of on the periphery. We don't see his face for most of the movie until we do get like an important revelation, and he's kind of like there on the side, and eventually it gets like shown that no, like Jesus is a real one. Like he's like basically a superhero, like in this movie. Like you watch him like do his miracles, and it's like very objectively like happening, and everything with Clarence to this point I think is like quite fun in terms of like the him being a non-believer, right? Him being a fictional character in and around, the times of Jesus, right? That was all good. The issue though is like once Clarence decides to become a fake Messiah, become a Messiah himself, he eventually actually kind of becomes really earnest and steadfast and forthright, and we kind of go through a, predictable path where it ends up with Clarence on the cross, even though he's not the Messiah. But there was a moment where God made him look like the Messiah. I think the walk on water scene towards the end there in front of the Romans, in front of the town, I thought that was absolutely hilarious, done to great effect. But, in general, we just basically kind of do up this lead up where Clarence is a stand-in for Christ and goes through all the things that happened to Christ leading up to the cross. And it's like, like, I don't know, I feel like the messaging of it was like a bit uneven just because like the humorous tone is almost completely sapped at that point. And, the stuff with the cross actually kind of graphic. It's not like Passion of the Christ level graphic, but, it was pretty bloody. And, it becomes a bit of a tougher watch in that moment. And again, meanwhile, like Jesus is still doing Jesus stuff, throughout. So it's like, I wish that maybe had a little more focus. I feel like it just kind of loses itself a little bit and turns to convention. I still quite enjoyed it, obviously. I think the way they use Benedict Cumberbatch, where it's once he's eventually revealed and like you can clearly see like the Cumberbatch we think of, just a really funny, maybe obvious, but really funny, I think, joke about how Jesus figures in like art and fiction are often just whitened, right? There's a lot like, oh, he looks so innocent. I think when you do get the revelation, like you see Jesus's face, it's Nicholas Pinnock is the actor who plays him. It's actually done quite well. Like there's quite presence to how they do that, and I actually kind of enjoyed the stuff with the apostles, and how they like expose Judas and stuff, and like that's all fun. I just wish like the Clarence arc was a bit more different from where it ends up going. Nonetheless, like I enjoyed the whole ensemble. I think the stuff in the beginning, again, speaking to that first act where Clarence decides to free the gladiator slaves, leading to his fight with Barabbas and then freeing him and him becoming his best ally. That's all great. Omar Sy is really fun as a sidekick, bodyguard type guy from then on out. In general, I like most of the ensemble. Alfre Woodard's really funny as the Virgin Mary. I mentioned Pontius Pilate by McAvoy. He's definitely chewed on the scenery to fun effect. That was good. And I think it's a great performance from LaKeith. Obviously, technically a dual role, but it's really he mainly is playing Clarence, and he's a charismatic guy, one of the best American actors we have right now. And R.J. Cyler, I actually think it was pretty fun from him, as a supporting role. Caleb McLaughlin, doing a more adult role as well. Obviously, post Stranger Things, nice to see that from him. And yeah, like I think the humor is there, especially in the beginning. There's so much craft. Like the movie looks amazing. And yeah, I think I'm only know with the craft is probably like the gladiator stuff was a bit, it's not Ridley Scott, we'll say. It's probably a smaller set and whatnot. It's still pretty good though. Yeah, the Book of Clarence. I liked it overall. I wish it had a stronger finish. I wish it had a more unique conclusion. Nonetheless, a fun time. Very much looking forward to the continuing career of Jeymes Samuel, as well as, of course, LaKeith. But let me know, what did you think of Book of Clarence? Were you kind of let down by the conventional conclusion to the film? Were you hoping for something a bit different like me? Let me know. And for more movie reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time.